Mandukya Karika, Pranam Mantra. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatra Sthirairange Stustuvagung Sastanubihi Vishema Deva Hitan Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashava Swasti na Pusha Vishwaveda Swasti Nastakshyo Aristanemi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. So, we have been discussing different philosophies and how Vedanta objects to them. Dear listeners, this is something very important because when you are trying to establish your own philosophy, your own outlook, you will have to contradict other philosophies. In today's talk, we will take up three very important philosophies that we have. In fact, we have informed you many times. And there are six major philosophies based on the Vedic learning, the Veda. Of these, Nyaya and Vaisheshika, their main premises are same. Similarly, Sankhya and Yoga, their premises are same. However, in case of Mimamsa and Vedanta, although they are taken together, but their premises are quite different. Surprisingly, those of you who are interested in studying Vedanta will realize that Vedanta takes all of them. Vedanta takes the argumentative style of Nyaya. The credit goes to Acharya Shankaracharya. What he did was, when he established Vedanta, he took the style of argumentation from the Nayayik. That is Nyaya and Vaisheshika. And from Sankhya, he took the theory of creation. From Yoga, he took the meditative techniques. And from Mimamsa, he took establishing his arguments based on the Veda. So that might make you think that probably Vedanta is a mixture of all these. No. Those of you who have been listening to these talks very seriously, sincerely, and trying to grasp the finer points of Vedanta, because Vedanta philosophy is extremely subtle. Extremely subtle. I tell you, it's extremely subtle. Now, it is nearly impossible for a common man to understand what is Vedanta. I'm not trying to put you off. I'm just telling you a fact. However, what Acharya Shankara did was, he made Vedanta accessible to all. Like Swami Vivekananda made Vedanta accessible to all. And he showed how Vedanta can be applied in daily life. So Acharya Shankara, what he did was, he took the strong points of each of these systems of philosophies and hit them at their weakest points. That way, he did both. On the one hand, he demolished the system. On the other, he took their strength to strengthen his own system. That's how you find Vedanta is extremely logical. People who argue against Vedanta and try to argue against some of its tenets, we shall see. Actually, I think they act mischievously. But I am too small a person to speak on these lines, use such terms. But that's what I feel. Now, even though Vedanta has taken these specializations from different systems of philosophy. How does it demolish other philosophies? That is what we shall see. First, it takes up Nyaya Vaishesika, then Sankhya, and then Mimamsa. Just to tell you, just to inform you, those of you who are truly interested in knowing about the Indian philosophical traditions, the Mimamsaka, the ritualists, they are the ritualists. They have been the most powerful philosophy of India. Uh, Mimamsa is the most powerful, and Mimamsaka are the most powerful speakers. When Acharya Shankara came on the scene, his main task was to defeat these Mimamsaka. So, Kumarila Bhatta was the most famous Mimamsaka of his time, but at that time he was already on his deathbed, burning himself to death. So, Kumarila Bhatta told him that his disciple is Mandan Mishra in Mithila. In Shankar Digvijay, they have erroneously put Mandan Mishra in Ujjain. It's absolutely wrong, completely wrong. That Shankar Digvijay, that's the only source book we have on the life of Acharya Shankar, but that particular fact is wrong. Mandan Mishra is from Mithila. And there's a very strong tradition of both Mimamsa and Vedanta in Mithila. It continues today. In Ujjain, there is nothing. So Acharya Shankar went, had arguments with Mandan Mishra, and he defeated him, and Mandan Mishra became his disciple. So Acharya Shankar had great difficulty in the sense that on the one hand he had to defeat the Mimamsaka, and on the other hand he had to defeat the Bauddha because they were extremely powerful in his time. So you'll find that Acharya Shankar is not a philosopher. Very often you'll find books where people talk about Acharya Shankar being a philosopher. No, he was not. He was just an interpreter. And we do not know what exactly Acharya Shankara's philosophy would have been. What would have been? So, somebody has written a book on Vigyan, Vedanta, and something. I've not read it. I've just heard. See, you cannot compare the works based on Sri Ramakrishna, that is Sri Ramakrishna's words, with the interpretation by Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya's work was cut out. He had to defeat the Bauddhas and he had to defeat the Mimamsaka. But Sri Ramakrishna was a free speaker. You cannot compare a person who is speaking freely with someone whose arguments are channelized. That's wrong, absolutely wrong. However, if you go deeper, you will find that they are talking the same thing, Sri Ramakrishna and Shankaracharya. So Mimamsaka is very powerful, and even today you'll find that every Hindu is essentially a Mimamsak. Each one of us, you, me, because we believe in rituals. And some people from other religions and so-called liberals and all, they criticize Hinduism for its rituals. But these rituals have come to us from the Mimamsaka. And lots of things that we today know about Ved have come from Mimamsaka. Now, Acharya Shankar, he didn't throw away everything. That was his beauty. He was a builder. Acharya Shankar was essentially a builder. Swami Vivekananda was essentially a builder. So, Shankaracharya created a monolith in which he took the strong points of all these philosophies and yet demolished them. Now we will see how Mandukya Karika demolishes different philosophies. First is Nyaya. Now, according to Nyaya, those of you who are interested can listen to our talks given on Indian philosophy in the Hinduism series talks. If you look in the playlists, you'll find one Hinduism that you can listen to those talks or you can study independently. Now, we have been discussing in the previous verse, that is verse number 9, we talked about Prakriti, nature. Gaudapada uses this nature, Prakriti, to attack Nayayika. According to Nayayika, the result, the effect is real. To remind you, Sankhya says that cause itself has become effect. According to Nayayika, that is Nyaya and Vaisheshik systems of thoughts, they are the realists. The effect is something new. You might wonder why exactly we are discussing all this. Because all these philosophies are current even today. The whole of Western philosophy and people who argue with you, they all of them will be taking up this stand or that stand or that stand. Now, as far as our soul is concerned, the Jeev is concerned, we know that we all know I was a young person, then I become an adult. Now I'm an old person, and someday you will hear Samarpanananda is dead. So, according to Nayayika, this transformation, the transformation that we see of the soul is real, has to be real. That's what they have said. Every transformation is something real. So, do you mean to say that Jeev is really undergoing, the soul is really undergoing all these transformations? According to Jain religion, those of you might have studied my book, The World of Religions, there, philosophy of Jainism has been discussed. There you will see. Jains believe that the soul that is within the body is of the same size as the body. So, an elephant has a larger soul than an ant. It's a fundamental philosophy of the Jains. As the body change, the size of soul changes. How they explain it? They say that supposing there is light and you put that light in a small pot, light will be covering that small region. And if you put it in a larger pot, it will be covering a larger region. It's just like that. That's the extremely fundamental philosophy of Jain. So soul indeed seems to go some kind of transformation according to different people, and that's why in Christian tradition, plants and animals have no soul. They're living beings, they don't have soul. And the soul of the evildoers, murderers, etc., is darkened, and the soul of noble persons is bright, etc., etc. Now, Nyaya, being a Vedic school of thought, Nyaya is based on the Vedas. So, Gaudapada attacks them and says that look, we have innumerable sayings in the Ved according to which Atman is beyond all this. So, how do you say that Jeev can undergo transformation and that the transformation that a soul experiences is real? How can you even say that? So, what exactly happens is the transformations that take place, that's just the imagination of the soul. They cannot be real. Because Atman, which is Jiva, Atman, which is Brahman, how can it really undergo these transformations? It's just not possible. So, so the transformations that we undergo, they cannot be real. And then it takes up Sankhya and says that, look, you say that Prakriti, that is nature, has two essential qualities. One is it is eternal, another it is unborn. The argument is beautiful. And you say that cause itself has become effect. And we are continuously seeing transformations. Milk becomes curd. This is transformation. So, according to you, milk itself has become curd. Whatever is there in this universe is Prakriti. So, Prakriti itself is becoming everything else, isn't it? That means Prakriti is undergoing transformation. If Prakriti is undergoing transformation, then how can you say that it is eternal? If Prakriti is eternal, Nitya, and unborn, you say that Prakriti is unborn, and we are continuously seeing things getting born. So Prakriti is getting born because you say that cause and effect they are same. Argument is not very difficult, it's very simple. And then it takes up Mimamsa. It says, in Mimamsa, Dharma becomes the most important thing. Dharma. Dharma characteristics, you can say. That's the best way. Not the Dharma the way we understand. And Dharma is also part of Prakriti, nature. The problem is that they say that as you perform Dharma, as you get into noble acts, your body changes. And as your body changes, your Dharma changes. The idea of caste system and all, they are all rooted in Mimamsa. Vedanta cannot accept caste system. Vedanta, as per its philosophy, cannot have caste system. Mimamsa will have caste system. In fact, the entire caste system is a product of these Mimamsaka, which was held by the Brahmins. These are the three major philosophies which are contradicted here. We will discuss verse after verse. So you might think that Vedanta went unchallenged. No, Vedanta didn't go unchallenged. Ramanuja, we have Ramanuja's short biography and philosophy in that Hinduism playlist. You can check Visishta Advaita. Term there I used was wrong. It's 7 Anupapatti. 7 great objections of against Vedanta. We will not discuss here in detail what Ramanuja did and the objections that are raised. It's not related to Brahman, it's not related to Atman, but it is related to Maya. Those of you who are deeply interested in philosophy, you realize that every philosophy has some weak point. Vedanta has only one weak point where you can attack it, and that's Maya. Problem is other systems of thoughts, other systems of philosophy have many more chinks. Vedanta has to defend only Maya. It doesn't have to defend anything else. Everything else is solid, absolutely iron cast. You will say then why it's not? Why Maya is not made iron cast? Because by its very definition, Maya cannot be defined. Maya is a statement of fact. How do you define statement of fact? You cannot. As a student of Vedanta, as an admirer of Vedanta, I can only say that Maya is the great contribution of Vedanta. And Ramanujacharya is believe me, is a great philosopher, is a great saint. And India has so many followers of Ramanuja even today. And great. But when it comes to his attack on Advaita, I feel that somewhere he missed the point. When Vedanta repeatedly explains that Maya is statement of fact, Maya is something which cannot be described, Maya is incomprehensible. So, Sri Ramanuja He makes 7 objections, anupapatti. For example, what is the locus of Maya? Where Maya stands? What is the locus of Maya? No? Acharya Shankara, in his commentary on Gita in 13th chapter, he has clearly explained. Yasya drishyate tasya. He who is in Maya, he knows. He sees it. Which is it's a statement of fact. You cannot object on that. How can you object on that? For example, then again, what is its nature? Is it real or is it imaginary? Things like that. But believe me, these are all just arguments. And however, followers of Shankara and followers of Ramanujan and followers of Madhva, they keep on fighting even these days. It continues. Even at present times, it continues. I myself have been a witness to these people who keep on arguing. And there have been occasions when these great scholars, they have nearly come to fisticuffs in front of the audience, trying to prove their point. With that fundamental ideas made clear, now we'll get into what the verses say. So we start with verse number 10. Jara marana nirmukta sarve dharma swabhavatah jara maranam icchantas chivante tan manishaya. Verse number 10. All the jivas are by their very nature free from senility and death, which is a fact. When senility means old age, jiva by its very nature is free of old age, is free of death, is free of birth, is free of any kind of transformation. But they think they are subject to old age and death. And by the very power of thought, they appear to deviate from their true nature. We think we think that I'm growing old. So how do you justify it? Is it real? Since the nature doesn't change, nature never changes. And we know that Jeev, as per the statements of the greatest of sages, it never undergoes any transformation, and yet we feel that we are continuously changing. Why? And will you say that these changes are real? So you cannot say that soul dies. You cannot say that soul is born. People who think that somebody dies, people who think that somebody is born, it's completely wrong. And then Karika moves on to attacking Sankhya. First, makes its own stand clear that Atman is neither born nor dies. Karanam yasya vai karyam, karanam tasya jayate, jayamanam katham ajam, bhinnam nityam katham chatat. It attacks Sankhya heavily. The disputants, those who are arguing, according to whom the cause itself is the effect, that is Sankhya, must maintain that the cause is born as the effect. Naturally, if cause is effect, then cause is born as effect. It's very simple. If it is born, how can it be called birthless? To remind you, in fact, I'll request you to listen to our talks on Raj Yoga, a very important talk. While discussing the philosophy of Raj Yoga, we have mentioned that Sankhya and Yoga, they maintain that there are two realities. One is Purush and another is Prakriti. Purush is consciousness, Prakriti is sum total of matter and energy, and they're eternal. So, on the one hand, you say that Prakriti is Nitya, eternal, it is Aja, unborn, and yet you say that it goes on transforming itself. Transformation. Transformation, according to Sankhya, is real. It's real. And yet, cause itself has become effect, according to them. That means Prakriti itself is becoming effect. And first transformation of Prakriti is Mahat, cosmic mind. Then Ahankar, cosmic ego. And from there it keeps on evolving, keeps on transforming. Now, at every step, Prakriti is transforming. That means Prakriti is changing, is becoming non eternal. That means it's becoming non eternal. And yet you say eternal. There is a contradiction. What you are saying, what you are saying contradicts your own standpoint and says, if it is subject to modification, how then can it be said to be eternal? You say that modifications are real and cause itself has become the effect. So Prakriti itself has become this pen. If I am saying this pen is modification of certain things. Certain things. What is that ultimate cause? Prakriti. Then Prakriti itself has become this pen. Prakriti has undergone transformation. How can you say that Prakriti is eternal? And if Prakriti is born as Mahat, cosmic mind, then how you say that Prakriti is never born? Aja. Aja means that which is never born. How can you say that? So on the one hand, you say that Prakriti is eternal, implying it is everywhere. And yet we see that here is pen, here is this microphone. That means Prakriti is manifesting as pain. Prakriti is manifesting as this microphone. And Prakriti is manifest at some places. It's not manifest at some places. How can it be eternal? Eternal in every sense, eternal in space, eternal in time. More importantly, everything that we see in this world, in this universe, is destructible. If things are destructible, how do you say that it is eternal? And कारणात् अद्य अनन्यत्वम अतः कार्यम अजम यदि जायमानात् ही वै कार्यात् कारणम ते कथम ध्रुवम. This is verse number 12. If, as you say, the effect is non-different from the cause, then the effect too must be unborn. Further, how can the cause be eternal if it is non-different from the effect which is born? It was mentioned that cause and effect being same. If cause is eternal, then effect also must be eternal. You cannot say that cause is eternal and effect is not. It's a very simple argument essentially. Acharya Shankar explains that simple. Karana, which is cause is eternal. So the effect, karya, that also has to be eternal. But we find that whatever the effect, it is born, it undergoes transformation, and then it disintegrates. Now you cannot say that there is something eternal, part of it is eternal, and part of it is non-eternal. And Acharya Shankar very beautifully uses a wonderful example. Nahi kukkutaya ekdesha pachyata ekdesha prasavaya kalpyate. It's a very unusual example he uses. Kukkut. Kukkut means chicken, hen, kind of thing that you eat. Maybe cock, hen, chicken. The common term used is chicken. Acharya Shankara uses that. It cannot be that you will have one part of the chicken for food, another part of chicken to lay eggs. Now, this is specially This is especially funny because Shankaracharya using the example of chicken as food is pretty unusual because he doesn't use this example anywhere else. Moreover, the general understanding in Hindu religion is na bhakshet gram kukkuta. Gram kukkut, that is the chicken should not be eaten. However, the wild chicks were eaten, wild peas, etc. And Hindus never kept chicken. So it was after the Muslims came that slowly, and now of course many Hindus take, not all. I know of hundreds of families who still feel polluted if even a feather of hen touches them. Acharya Shankar is using this example. It's very interesting. नहीं कुक्कुटया एक देशा पच्यत एक देशा प्रसवाय. You cannot have a hen. A part of it, a part of it will be used for meat, and another part will be used for laying eggs. The idea is you cannot say that one part of Prakriti is eternal and another part is non-eternal. Do you realize that the same allegation is applicable to personal God too? The same argument can be applied to every system of philosophy, every dualistic system of religion, which believes that God is eternal and yet universe is not. It's not only Sankhya, practically every religion. I'm not naming the religion. There's so much of intolerance all around. But on the one hand, let's say, those who believe in Lord Krishna say that Lord Krishna is eternal. If Lord Krishna is eternal, then everything that he produces will be eternal. Because the problem is, every time we think of creation, we think of, say, pot maker and the pot, cloth maker and the cloth. Like in earlier times, we used to have weavers. We still have weavers, but now technology has changed a lot. Now, a potter makes a pot. So, potter and pot, they are different. We are forgetting that potter himself is non eternal. When it comes to creation, the ideas of creation, when we say that God created this universe, we think of God as the potter and universe as the pot. And the way a potter made pots, exactly like that, we think that God made this universe. But we forget that God is not a potter. God is not a great watchmaker, whatever, this 15th, 16th century physicists were talking about. God is not a great watchmaker. God is not like a potter. If God is eternal, there is nothing else other than God. And every part of God has to be eternal. If everything is eternal, then this universe has to be eternal. Even if you say universe in totality has to be eternal. How do you talk about one-time creation? How can there be one-time creation? Actually, dear listeners, if you go very deep into thinking, believe me, you will end up with Ajatvad. As it said, nothing is born. Only God exists. Creation. Creation is just an appearance. It cannot be real. Because if it is real, if you say that creation is real, then all these arguments that Gaudapada has been using, Mandukya Karika has been using, gets applied to all those arguments and they get demolished. Then God himself becomes non-eternal. God himself becomes changeable. Vedanta doesn't face these problems. As I said, the chink, the small chink in the argument of Vedanta, in the whole philosophy of Vedanta, is its Maya. People attack it. But Maya is something that you need to understand intuitively. If you do sadhana, you will know it. If your mind becomes calm, you will understand it. And if you come, anyone who attacks Maya, I am suspicious of that person. With my due respect to all the great teachers and due respect to great scholars, I see I am not a scholar, nor I am a philosopher. One thing I understand, if you can understand, it's not acceptance minded. It's not like you believe in a sacred book and then you do anything you want. You say that I believe in my sacred book, and anyone who opposes it, he is my enemy. No, it's not that. They say that religion runs on beliefs. Maybe other religions, but not Vedanta. Vedanta doesn't run on belief. It doesn't ask you to accept Maya as Maya is some belief, some kind of belief, some kind of hypothesis, some kind of axiom. No, nothing. It's just a statement of fact. If at all, you want to compare Vedanta philosophy with the scientific outlook, that's when you can say Maya is an axiomatic truth. It is there. The way Einstein said that speed of light always remains constant is axiomatic truth. Just like that, Maya is an axiomatic truth. Finished. Everything else can be explained. Everything else can be explained. Or if you go by Brahman alone exists. Everything else that you are seeing is just Maya, nothing else. It's appearance. Because if you don't, then one part becomes eternal, another part becomes non-eternal. Another very interesting thing you will find in Vedanta, in fact, that's there in every system of philosophy, that they say when you say something, it must be corroborated, or if corroborated is not a very good example, then just that if not, it's not a good word, then you can say whatever word you use, that it must be explained by an example. There must exist an example in the real world that will explain the truth. So when they explain Maya being a statement of fact, is a state of mind, they use the example of snake and the rope. Mandukya Karika repeatedly uses these arguments that where do you have this example? We'll come across that. Says, I hope this verse number 12 is clear to you now. कारणात् यत् अनन्यत्वम अतः कार्यम अजम यदि. As you say that cause itself has become effect. Cause being eternal, effect also must be eternal. What about the things that we see? We see that everything is getting transformed. They have their answers, but the answers are not always fully acceptable. And that is what it says in the next verse. अजात वै जायते यस्य दृष्टान्तस्तस्य नास्ति वै जाताच्च जायमानस्य न व्यवस्था प्रसज्यते. There is no illustration to support it. Whatever, support is a better word. Whatever statement you are making, it must be philosophically profound, logically sound, and supported by examples. Unless you are not talking about something profound, that is something which I cannot grasp with my senses, and yet it should be logical, and there must be some example to support it. It is not that if it's not that we are trying to reach a conclusion from an example. That's a very bad form of argument. You make a statement, show how it is logical, and then support it with an example. In example, only that part will be taken which needs to be taken to support the statement that has been made. अजात वै जायते यस्य दृष्टान्तस्तस्य नास्ति वै जाताच्च जायमानस्य न व्यवस्था प्रसज्यते. There is no illustration to support the view that the effect is born after an unborn cause. Again, if it is said that the effect is produced from a cause which itself is born, then this leads to an infinite regress. Infinite regress is you go and try to find out the final and ultimate substratum. You say that this effect is born of this cause and this cause is born of that cause. You go on and on. You have to stop somewhere. That is not permitted. So they don't accept Sankhya because of this. The basic premise, you begin with this, that Prakriti is eternal, it is unborn, and yet we find everything going the other way. I'll just stop for a minute just to see in case somebody has any question. Uh, just a second. Let me see if there is any. Paul Burns, eternal but changing ever since the Big Bang. Paul Burns, I don't know if you got the idea. Big Bang can happen over and over. This is eternal. No, Mr. Paul Burns. See, eternal and changing. Your question is absolutely correct. Your observation is correct. That eternal but changing. See what happens. Very often, we interpret terms according to our wish. Let me explain. Do you know what is bad science? Bad science is when you come up with a theory, and maybe when the experiments are being performed, you find that the experiments are going against the theory that you have proposed. So you kind of fudge data, or you try to say that, well, it doesn't fit. Richard Feynman, who was a great scientist, Nobel laureate, he had beautifully said that if you want to be a good scientist, I'm not quoting his exact words, the idea is that if your theory doesn't fit with the experiments, then know that it's a bad theory. The problem is that, dear Paul Burns, I'm not contradicting you. I'm just making one idea clear because I myself have gone through that stage. And mind it, I'm not a philosopher, not a philosopher, just ordinary student of Vedanta, not even a teacher. The problem that I have faced in my life, because I didn't really grow up studying all this, because I studied other things and slowly I got introduced. And so I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking on behalf of all. I used to imagine the meaning of some words according to my wish. And that is bad philosophy. And that way I'm an extremely bad philosopher. Of course, I'm no philosopher, but very bad philosopher, because the terms that are used in Vedanta, or for that matter in any system of philosophy, they have a very special meaning. Just to mention, Immanuel Kant. I'm sure everyone has heard his name, Immanuel Kant. Now, what Immanuel Kant did when he was writing philosophy, he took up common words from German language and he gave special meaning to them. So, whenever you use some word, he would go on writing pages after pages to explain what exactly he means by this term. And yet, those words were used in German language very often, not always, in some other sense. Similarly, he came up also with new terminology, new terms. Problem with Vedanta and with most of the Indian systems is that very often they use words which have some other connotation in daily life. So you tend to conclude from that it might mean something like that. More importantly, when some data come or some ideas come, we interpret things in our own way. Now, eternal means eternal. Eternal means non-changing. Eternal means that it cannot change. Now, when you think of the universe and Big Bang continuously happening, of course, well, then there will have to be some new kind of term. But when you say nitya, the exact word in Vedanta is nitya. It is aja. Aja means unborn. If it is unborn, then there cannot be any transformation, because every transformation is birth. Whether it is transformation because uh, Mr. Paul Burns, if you're still listening, I'm not sure if you're listening. When we started some maybe 2 or 3 classes previously, we explained exactly this thing. When a new thing comes, is it a transformation or is it a new thing? Nayayika will say it's a new thing, and Sankhya will say it's a transformation. However, whether it is see, oh, Paul Burns is there. So I don't know where exactly you're from. I'm glad that you're listening. But Mr. Paul Burns, what you're saying fits with Sankhya system of thought, that cause itself has become effect. Exactly what you say, that Big Bang can happen over and over. This is eternal. Absolutely. Absolutely, you're correct, Mr. Burns. Absolutely, you're correct. But this exactly is the philosophy of Sankhya. And this is what is being attacked, because transformation itself means birth. This is what is being attacked. When you say eternal, it means non-changing. Milk becomes curd. If milk becomes curd, will you say that curd is born? See, curd may be a transformation. Exactly, that is what Sankhya says. Sorry, that cause itself has become effect, but that is birth. So every birth means just a transformation. So, Mr. Paul Burns, what you say is absolutely correct, but exactly that is being attacked here. So now Abhishek has come with theory of non-contradiction. What is said of all true? I'm not sure. I've never heard of theory of non-contradiction. Um, Dear Mr. Paul Burns, I hope I made the idea clear. And just to make it very clear how Vedanta looks at it, Vedanta will say that this transformation that you are seeing is absolutely, there is transformation. This transformation is real because you are seeing it. From the aspect of your, from the standpoint of your mind, this is real. But from the standpoint of reality, there is no transformation of any kind. And this is Ajatavad. Ajatavad means nothing is ever born. Is there some kind of transformation? No, there is no transformation. And that is why they discussed in the beginning. And I'll request you, Mr. Burns, if you're interested, you can listen to our talk from the beginning. That when we have 3 states, waking, dream, and deep sleep, what exactly changes? Nothing changes. You remain the same. And yet, everything appears to be changing. This appearance is being discussed in Vedanta. What Vedanta does, it says transformation that you think to be real is actually just an appearance. There was Bradley, a great philosopher in the West. His famous book, Appearance and Reality. Reality and Appearance is a wonderful book. So, dear listeners, I'm not sure if I am able to put my ideas across. Whether you call it transformation, whether you call it new birth, whatever you call. Sankhya explains it in one way. Nayayika explain, explains it in another way. So we have the realists, we have the idealists, we have the objectivists. So apparently it seems that, so Mr. Paul, this is actually what you are asking is something that we all have faced. What about this Big Bang? What's happening? Vedanta doesn't deny it. Vedanta is very much there and it's absolutely real. My hunger is absolutely real from the standpoint of my mind. When I eat and I feel satisfied, this is absolutely real. The only thing is, from the standpoint of Supreme Brahman, from the standpoint of ultimate reality, all these are mere appearance. Why? Because when you're sleeping, when you're dreaming, you feel hunger. And in your dream state, you have food and then you feel sated. But what happened from the standpoint of the waking? Nothing happened. Just like that. Well, that's how I think we have crossed 40 classes and this is what is being discussed. Here we are just discussing two important systems of philosophy. Is transformation just the cause appearing in a different form, or is it something new? So Mr. Burns says, Big Bang happening. It is real transformation, but eternal. No, you cannot explain the terms in your way, because in that case there will be total confusion. You will have to come up with some new term, as Abhishek Yogi says, theory of non-contradiction. Well, I've never heard of this term, so I don't know what exactly he means by that. But that's how you have to come up with a new term to mean. However, this problem of transformation is already there, and Sankhya says that when Prakriti undergoes transformation as Mahat, Prakriti remains Prakriti, yet it becomes Mahat. And this is what Vedanta attacks. Is this transformation real or not? Now, if you say that actually nothing had changed, then you become Ajatvad, theory of unborn. So, is it Maya? Yes, it is Maya. This is Maya. Maya means it appears to have transformed. Maya means it appears to be born, and yet nothing has happened. That is why they often use the example of magician. Sri Ramakrishna also in his gospel, you'll see that many times he gives that example. A king wanted to understand the reality of the universe. So there was a saint, Sadhu Baba sitting. He just started moving his fingers, and suddenly lots of things started happening. And there was a horse rider and this, and there lots of things started happening. And then he stopped, and everything stopped. So Maya is like that. It appears. And yet, actually, nothing has happened. So, well, that is what we can say. In case you have any other question based on these two systems of thought, because the next will be Mimamsa. In case of, anyway, we can cover this. Verse number 14 says, Hetu radhi phalam yesham adir hetu phalasya cha. Hetu phalasya cha anadi katham teru varnyate. How can they who assert that the effect is the cause of the cause, and the cause is the cause of the effect, maintain the beginningless of both cause and effect? This is a very interesting, say, this Mimamsa. As I told you, this was a very powerful system of thought in India. It said, Mimamsa said, Dharma is all important. If Dharma is all important, Dharma gives you the body, and then in turn, body gives the Dharma. So, according to Sankhya, I have done some noble things. That's how I'm a monk, given more, expected, and given more to religion and spirituality. And because I am here, and if I perform my work well, if my thoughts are well, then more dharma will come. And with more dharma, I will have a better body. For example, in Buddhist tradition, you might have heard of Jataka, where Buddha is being born in different species and slowly he is evolving, etc. And Bhagwan Buddha is at times taken as an incarnation, avatar, and sometimes as an evolving soul. Why evolving soul? Because slowly you are becoming more, you are getting established in more dharma. So you are evolving more and more. Fine. There is dharma, and dharma produces body, and body produces dharma, and dharma produces body, and this is unending cycle. So it says, you make it clear which one was in the beginning. The famous example of the seed and tree. But seed and tree is from the biology standpoint. When you are talking about the ultimate reality, you will have to say, either you say that both of these, either you say that both of these are eternal, dharma and body. For example, our Sankhya says Purus and Prakriti are eternal. Just like that, you say that dharma and body, they are both eternal. Or you say which one is eternal? If dharma produces body and body produces dharma, which came the first? See, we are not discussing general biology. We are not explaining this world. Either you say that there are two realities, each giving birth to the other, or you say there is one reality. If you say there is one single reality, then you tell which one came first. It's such a simple thing. Because then what about Atman? From where Atman will be produced? You have to be very clear about it. हेतुरादि फलम येषाम आदिर हेतु फलस्य च तथा जन्म भवत तेषाम पुत्रा जन्म पितुर्यथा. Not telling that dharma produces body and body produces dharma. It's like father gives birth to son and son gives birth to father. So either you tell very clearly which follows what. Because when a calf is born, if there is a cow, its horns are separate, right and left. They don't change. संभवे हेतु फलयोर ऐसी तभ्य क्रमस्त्वया युगपत संभवे यस्मात् असंबंधो विषान्वत. So you say whether the cause and effect are simultaneous or they follow one after the other. So this idea that cause produces effect and effect produces cause, like Mr. Paul once was talking about, there is big bang and there will be big crunch, and from big crunch there will be big bang. Cause follows effect, effect follows cause. As far as universe is concerned, it's perfectly all right. But when it comes to ultimate spiritual reality, you will have to very clearly say whether these two things, big crunch and big bang, these two are independent realities always present, or one follows the other. If one follows the other, you tell from where it began. Actually, Mimamsaka doesn't explain it, because if it says, there will be trouble. I think we have discussed enough. Let us stop it here. I will continue with verse number 70 in the next talk. Thank you so much.